Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown Opposition Preview Show with Tom, Dana, and our special guest for the evening. We've got Raj Chohan of at Premier League Panel, I should say, on Twitter, here to give us a breakdown on Coventry ahead of the playoff semi-finals. Raj, thanks very much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me on. Excited for the show and excited for the couple of matches we've got coming up.
Us too, definitely. But I mean, I'm going to dive straight in with the big question, bit of a two-parter. How are you feeling ahead of the playoffs other than excited? And what does it mean to you as a Coventry fan to see your team in the playoffs?
Yeah, so feelings kind of mixed at the moment. Very nervous. I was nervous ahead of even last Monday's match. Obviously, this is big stakes now, but excitement as well because obviously we're going into it in quite good form. I think we've only lost one in the last 16 games. It's a big upturn of form since January, really. And Robin has done a fantastic job to nail down a system and way of playing since then. As a Coventry fan, obviously this is big for us. We didn't think we'd get anywhere near this kind of territory. If you're talking 3-4 years ago in League Two, it was a big decline for us. Obviously, we've had some big ownership problems, stadium problems. It was mounting up one after the other, and it really needed a remarkable coach like Robbins to get us anywhere near this position. We've only bought a couple of players really for transfer fees in the last couple of years. It's mainly just been done on loans, academy players, and just Robbins developing the couple of signings he has been able to bring in. So yeah, it's a miracle really. And yeah, I'm just grateful to be in this kind of position.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the ownership problems as well? Because obviously I've known Coventry being a staple of the Premier League back in, the 90s. How did it become a little bit of quite a big actually decline for Coventry over the past few decades?
So obviously we got taken over by a hedge fund called Sisu. Their main interest was really just to take money out of the club. They were investing nothing back and they were actually taking money out at the same time. Nothing invested in transfers, even lost the stadium, ended up having to rent the stadium off the council, and then Wasps then obviously took it over. We had to get it off them as well. So literally zero investment. And that is really what led to the decline. And obviously some bad managers along the way as well. Until Robbins came in. Obviously, we had Robbins first time round. And then he actually left us to go to Huddersfield, and then came back after Huddersfield sacked him. And since then, he stayed with us. I think that Huddersfield experience has made him really he loves the club. I think after that experience, he knows what he gets at Coventry. The fans will give him maximum support. The board, even though the board haven't been good in terms of investment, they give him as much support as possible because they know he's the only guy who can really work with these kind of tight financial situations. But luckily, we did get taken over by Doug King. Recently, this fella seems to want to put a bit more back into the club. He's promised some funds in the summer for Robbins. So even if we don't get promoted, it looks like there are some brighter days on the horizon.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot Robbins there, and obviously you were in League Two in 2017-18. We got a question from one of our listeners, Rob Fletcher. He asks, he wants to know how effectively Robbins has evolved the team tactically since he took over in League Two.
That is a very good question. He has like this in terms of formation. He's like this 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 system ever since he's come in. Really, I think first and foremost, defensively, his organisation is fantastic, and that is something he's carried through all the way through the leagues. I'd say when we were further down in League Two and League One, we used to play a bit more football on the floor, try to build from the back a bit more. But since we got to the Championship, he's realised we can't really do that against all teams. We haven't got the level of player, except for a couple who we'll probably mention in the podcast. We need to be a bit more conservative with our tactics. So this time round, even since last season, he's become a bit more defensive, I think. I think look at the possession stats, we were averaging around 55% possession last year, and this year it's around 47%. So you can even tell with that. We've gone into a bit more of a reactive team, and then using the guys like Jokres and Hamer in the attacking positions to hit teams on the break. So definitely a bit more conservative, but we still play football when the time suits. He does push on those wing backs in the system quite aggressively at times, and we got good ball playing centre backs. Callum Doyle was coming from Man City. He got a fantastic range of passing, and Luke McNally as well was brought in January as a loan from Burnley, and he again similarly likes to bring the ball out more by carrying it rather than passing it. But still, there's still that emphasis to play out from the back, but he doesn't mind sitting back in the shape when the time suits as well.
So looking ahead to how we're going to match up in the playoffs a little bit. I mean, obviously we've had a little bit of a preview in the last game of the season. Definitely an interesting affair. How do you think the teams matched up in that game?
Yeah, it's a very interesting game, wasn't it? It's a contrast of styles, really. You guys play some lovely possession football under Carrot. Very impressive what you guys are doing. You had 74% possession in that game, so you're really penning us in at times. The guy Hayden Hackney in midfield, he really impressed me on the day as well. He's like the conductor in there, isn't he? Really, everything goes through him.
Brilliant.
And he sprays passes everywhere. So yeah, that I think you guys commit quite a few players forward as well. I think that was one thing that might have hurt you when we scored the goal. Really, you had I think it was your defensive fielder Mowat was stuck in the middle of the park on his own. He got dribble pass, and then instantly we had a 3 versus 2 at the back against your 2 centre backs. So he was you pushed into quite an aggressive formation there and left that space for us in behind. So that was what was intriguing. It was more of a cat and mouse kind of game. We were sitting back and looking to launch our players on the break, especially Hamer and Gyökeres in that left-sided channel. Him and Paddy McNair had a fascinating duel going on out there. And I thought McNair did pretty well, actually, didn't he? Where Gyökeres obviously got the beating a couple of times. I've seen a lot of centre-backs struggle more than McNair did. So again, that'll be one to watch out for in this match. But yeah, I think it was really possession-based style from you guys versus our more counter-attacking style. And yeah, it was fascinating.
Is it usually that left-hand channel that you see Gyökeres playing? Because a lot of Boro fans probably took from that game that maybe you were targeting McNair. He has been a little bit suspect this season. But is Gyökeres usually in that sort of left half space?
Yeah, he loves that channel. Because obviously, for a big striker, he's a big unit, Gyökeres. There's not many strikers like that who can dribble with that kind of close control. And that's the main unique thing about him. If there's one other striker out there in Europe I'd compare him to, it's probably the fella for Frankfurt and France, Randall Kolo Muani. Those two are very similar players. And obviously, Kolo Muani's been linked with a £100 million move in the summer. So that's the kind of style he's got where he'll take it in the left channel and then he'll either dribble inside and look to get a shot off, or he could even go down the line and get a cut back in. So yeah, it's definitely that left channel he likes to exploit. So I don't think it was specifically for McNair, no.
I think you summed up the game perfectly there, where you said it was very cat and mouse kind of game. Carrick has said in the press conference afterwards, he's learned a few things from that game. I'm pretty sure Robin said similar things. Everyone's expecting the playoff games to be completely different. Do you expect either team will be looking to make changes to counteract the other in the first game?
I think from a Coventry perspective, I think they'll play very similar, because that you have to think that was a pressure game for Coventry, obviously less so for Boro. So Coventry will play in that similar style on the counter-attack, I think, and look to defend the box as best as possible. One change I think I could see Boro making, you're attacking obviously with a 2-3-5, but often that became a 2-2-6 almost, where you left, as I said, Mowat on his own. I think you might see Hackney's position change a bit to help protect against those transitions. So I do feel that was the weakness for Boro, to be honest. Hamer was not being tracked as well as he could have with those late runs from midfield. So I think maybe Carrick will be a bit more conservative. Obviously, he didn't have much riding on that game. So maybe you do drop someone back, help Mowat out to defend those counterattacks. One thing I did see where Boro had a lot of joy in that game on Monday was in our right channel, your left channel, you were constantly looking to play the ball in behind our wing-back, Norton Cuffy. He is a pretty young lad. And I think Giles, your left wing-back, got in, I think, 10 crosses in that match. So you were definitely looking to get him into those crossing areas. And then what you had was, in that kind of 2-3-5, which is how you attack, you had Akpom, or we had McGree occupying our right-sided centre-back McNally in the kind of half space, but then you had Giles bombing on in behind Norton Cuffy. who's not the best positionally. And also, he's not used to these kind of high-level games. He only came in from Arsenal Academy in January, and I think the intensity got to him as the game wore on. And Giles was getting in more and more as the second half progressed. But I don't think anyone connected on it. So expect Archer to maybe be a bit sharper to those crosses. Maybe that could be an area where you look to exploit.
I definitely saw that on Monday, where I think in the first half, Boro were a little bit stuck, given your high press, and you were overloading our right side quite a bit, giving that, well, trying to counteract our numerical advantage that we typically like on that side. And then in the second half, we seemed to switch it a lot more, which is, feeds into what you were saying there about our left side. We got a lot more joy in that second half in that area. And I do think it is a fascinating matchup between two sides that are very good counter-attacking. Boro the most goals from counter-attacking situations, Coventry the second most. But Boro do tend to, as you alluded to earlier with the possession stats, we do tend to try to play that possession dominant style. So what we've spoken about on the podcast before is these pockets of chaos that we will try to strangle the opponent and hit them on the counter, but also we can switch up a little bit and dominate the possession. So what I'm interested in, I guess, and potentially saw it there with that big switch, what are the weaknesses of Coventry? And you have obviously said they're not Cuffy. Are there any others? I've seen a few criticisms of Josh Eccles on the forums, but forums aren't always particularly great places to view anyway, because they can be quite critical. But yeah, what are any other weaknesses of Coventry that Boro might look to exploit?
Yeah, you're right to allude to that midfield kind of area. Eccles, he does have a habit of sometimes losing his runner. He's got a good engine on him, but I'd say he's not the most diligent at tracking a player into the box, for example. He wasn't really a starter when we had our two number 10s, Casey Palmer and Callum O'Hare, fit. It was more Hamer playing that defensive role, shielding defence. But then we've had to move Hamer up into that attacking role. And that's obviously proved very good, because I think he's got 8 goals and assists in the last 5 games. So, but the problem is now we look a bit barer at the back with Eccles there. So definitely, if you could make those runs off him, definitely an area to exploit. But as I said, you've got to balance that with the counter-attacking threat. I know you alluded to the high press there. I think one weakness was that there were a couple of chances which came. But what Robins likes to do, he likes to filter the opposition's ball into that wider channel area, and then he will just get his wing-backs to push forward on the opposition fullback. I think that happened, but then what happens is you play a sideways or backwards pass backwards. He then activates the high press with our narrow 3 midfielders and the front 2. So that's one area where Carrick may say play forward a bit more quickly there, rather than going backwards and look to consolidate possession again, because that Coventry high press can suddenly hit you if they hit the right triggers and filter that ball out wide, and then it comes back inside. So that's definitely one to look out for as well.
Something I'd like to get your perspective on. I mean, the Boro goal that we scored on Monday came from a corner. It was quite a quick, short routine, which we've not seen a lot of from us this season. We've been very wasteful from set pieces, and that seems to be the first game where we've actually really done that and had success with it straight away. Is that potentially an area that Carrick might be targeting there? It did seem like maybe for the goal, it was just like a brief lapse in concentration. Had maybe kind of cost you in the corner. Is that something that's kind of seen regularly, or was it just kind of more being caught off guard, do you think?
I've not seen anything like that before, really. But what I will say is I think Gus Hamer picked up an injury just prior to that, where he was stretching his calf out, and I think he looked a bit slow to get to the short corner, and then lost his man. And you guys capitalised that. Archer, obviously, he's got great movement in the box and good finish. But maybe it will be because McNally and McFadzean are beasts in the air, really. So they will dominate in the air, and then maybe the short corner is a better route to go rather than going lofting it in the air and challenging those two guys. But yeah, it could be definitely, if you could repeat it, but obviously I'm sure Robbins will now drill into his players that you got to be a lot better there, because it was a bit sloppy from Hamer.
Yeah, we've showed our card too early there, haven't we, Tom? We should have done that in that game.
I was going to say, it's going to be so interesting to see if that carries on and like what else changes now, because like I said, that had never happened before.
Do you guys tend to score many from corners directly, or is it no?
No. We were talking about this on one of our podcasts, actually. There's a thing on our podcast called The Malt Curse, which is me jinxing things. And I was saying how Coventry are also not good at set pieces. And I was this whole narrative of you need to be good at set pieces to be a good team. You don't. So both of our teams aren't particularly prevalent at scoring goals from set pieces. But, you gave us one on Monday, which probably won't happen again.
It's just a nice, cheap way to get a goal, isn't it? I mean, Man City this year, you look in the Champions League, since Pep's brought in his 4 centre-back system at the back, where he's using 4 pretty big centre-backs, they're scoring goals from set pieces in the Champions League, and that's helped them progress. So maybe Luton are obviously a very good set-piece team, so that could be, if either of us get to one of us will get to the final, but that's one, if Luton get there, that'll be one where we could come unstuck.
So you've mentioned quite a few players in the breakdown of Monday's game. Who do you think are going to be the most pivotal players on both teams in the semi-final stage?
So I think obviously Gyökeres is the one for us. If we're going to go into the game again with just 26% possession, which is what we had on Monday, and look to sit back, we're really just doing that to give him the space to run in that left channel. And yeah, I would say before this season, I had Callum Wilson and James Maddison as the best players I've seen for Coventry since being relegated to the lower leagues. I think Gyökeres has outshone both of them, which is a big testament to, because those guys have obviously gone on to have very good Premier League careers. And I think this guy will have a similar trajectory to Ivan Toney when he was in the Championship with Brentford. The key difference with Gyökeres is he's able to create his own goals. He doesn't need service on the plate. He can dribble with the ball, cut inside, take it past the man, and then shoot from kind of mid-range distances, and create his own goals that way. And I think that is a big thing to look out for when you're looking at someone translating their level to the Premier League. So yeah, Gyökeres and Gus Hamer obviously is in good form, making those late runs from midfield. So Gyökeres takes it on the counter, and then you also see Hamer. He gives time for Hamer to then join him in support, because Matty Gordon, Gyökeres' strike partner, isn't the best player, I'd say. He's one who is really kind of punching above his actual level for us. But for you guys, I'm quite impressed with Archer in terms of how clinical he is. And one thing he probably has over Gyökeres is he's probably more clinical. Gyökeres misses quite a few easy chances. I think we had a game against Reading a couple of weeks ago, and he missed about 3 or 4 easy chances. So yeah, you guys got Archer and obviously Giles as well, as we mentioned earlier in the show about that left-hand side for Boro. And I was reading the stats. I think has Giles got around 11 assists, and he's created 22 big chances this year. That is a crazy big source of creation, isn't it? So him and Archer are probably the ones to watch out for me. What do you guys think? Have you got any other thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Archer. He's going into this game off the back of, I think it's 6 goal contributions. I think it might actually be more than that. I mean, we spoke about it on the podcast, but I've completely forgot. But he's in really, really good form. Chuba Akpom's actually enduring his biggest goal drought under Carrick, 2 games. So, he's been a massive player for us. So, yeah, I think I agree on Archer and Giles. And yeah, Gyökeres. I think even though you said that Paddy McNair did well up against him, I think Lenihan did as well on the other side. He just looked really, really dangerous one-on-one. And as you said, that ability to dribble past people, carry the ball so well with pace and good close control. I mean, if you don't go up, he will definitely be off. Because he's such a good player. And I remember Gyökeres when he was at Swansea, and a lot of their fans did not rate him at all. So I think this is a classic case, much like with Chuba and Carrick, of probably a player just finding the right manager and the right football club. So I definitely agree with that. Tom, do you have any thoughts on Coventry's main men?
Yeah, Gyökeres scares me. Just to kind of pick up on what you were saying there were so many times in Monday's game where he'd be running at McNair one-on-one from the left-hand channel. I'm just thinking there's no way that McNair's actually getting a tackle in here. I could see him skipping past him and launching the shot at Stefan. I was really kind of appreciating the battle between Norton Cuffy and Giles on the left/right hand side. So I feel like that's going to be a bit of a pivotal point for both semi-final games as well.
Yeah, the other thing is the backup right wing back to Norton Cuffy, Fankati Dabo. He's had a terrible run of form as well. So we don't even have a substitute option, I don't think, for Norton Cuffy when his legs tire. So you guys can definitely exploit that.
I was wondering about Dabo because I remember last season I actually really liked him when we played you guys. So I'm surprised. I was wondering where he was yesterday because I didn't see on Monday. Sorry, because I didn't see the bench. But yeah, that's interesting that he's had a bit of a down season compared to maybe previous ones. But you mentioned Gus Hamer earlier, and just then as well. Actually, he's obviously been moved to a more advanced midfield position. You touched on it a little bit. How has that impacted the dynamic of the side? Because he's a very aggressive presser, isn't he? He's a very good player. Him, I do like him a lot.
Yeah, you're right. He's a very aggressive player. He reminds me more of a South American type of player, kind of pit bull who loves the tackle, runs all over the midfield. Maybe I think Robbins has found his best position now because in that, even though he was providing a bit more defensive security at the base of the midfield, as you say, he's more of a Kante. He wants to stretch his legs and be more of a destructive ball winner rather than stay disciplined. So yeah, that from that side of his game, and also. When he gets forward, he's good carrying the ball through the midfield, and then he gets those shots off outside the box, as we saw on Monday, and he's got a good clean strike on him. And I think there was a chance early on as well where we managed to press you high. Yeah, exactly. And we pressed you high, won the ball back, and Hamer had another shot which Stefan saved quite well. So this new role for him, it suits his style of play.
So we're going to do something different for this show, as it's the first opposition preview show that we've ever done for the playoffs. I'm pretty sure this is the first year we've ever, podcasted during a playoff campaign as well. It's just new to us completely. What I'd usually do at the end of an opposition preview show is ask for predictions on the next match. I'm not going to do that this time. What I'm going to say is, what are your predictions for both semi-finals, and who do you think's going to end up winning in the final?
So, yeah, it's a tricky game for us, but
I'm going to guess you'll be on the Amstel, Raj. Again, you'll be on the Amstel. You're on the Amstel the other day, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, you just spot Amstel or Peroni. Those are my two go-tos, really. So yeah,
Chris Wilder over here.
Yeah. So yeah, an Amstel for halftime drinks, but yeah, score-wise. I'll go as edging through in a 3-2 aggregate victory. But honestly, that could be very different. But I just quite liked how many opportunities we had on the counter attack. But it's going to be. I think Carrick will play a bit more safe in its first and second legs of the semis. Other semi-final. I think Luton will go through, which is good news for you guys as well. You're obviously not big fans of Sunderland, I'm guessing. So yeah, I think Luton will go through. They're in very good form, aren't they? And I think they suit a bit knockout football. They've got that physical, aggressive style of play, and defensively they're quite solid. So I can see them edging through on a couple of set pieces or something like that. But yeah, and it'll be a Luton Coventry final.
Ooh, not a fan of that for obvious reasons.
Fancy trying to pick a winner from that?
You know what? I'm very scared about Luton. They do scare me. Because I think they can play us at our own game. I think defensively they're just as good as us, and they've got that direct threat. Someone like Callum Doyle isn't big, isn't that big. Obviously McFadden and McNally are, so there could be an aerial kind of assault. I'd have us going through on winning the playoffs on penalties.
Ooh, drama! I'm all there for that. I'm all here for penalty drama.
And now, Dana, do you want to take a run at the predictions as well?
Oh, you put me on the spot there. You know what? I'm going to say 1-1 for the first game against ourselves in Coventry. I just think that going back to the Riverside with a good foundation and a draw will take us through, because I think that when Boro are at the Riverside and we need that little bit of that 12th man edge. I know it's very cliche in football, but I feel like we'll do it. I feel like we'll get the job done at home. So I'm going to say that we'll beat Coventry in the second leg 2-0 for a 3-1 aggregate score. And then I think Sunderland are going to beat Luton. I really do. I just think that Clark, Diallo and Pritchard and the players that they've got, I just fancy them. I do. And I think they're in really good form as well. So that would be a Boro Sunderland playoff final. Oh my God, that's terrible. Oh, that's terrible.
It's like the Milan derby last night, isn't it? All the fans on edge of their seats.
Yeah.
No, it's not a derby to them, though. Can't say that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
is it not?
Yeah,
it is when they win. But
all right.
Yeah, for the final, you know what? I'm not even going to say because I'll jinx it. So yeah, but I am going to say a Boro Sunderland final. That's scary.
I would agree with you on that, Dana. And you know what? I'd probably go with Boro getting their first Wembley win against Sunderland. I mean, touch wood, I'm on wooden desk now, so hopefully safe in saying that. But what a way to get your first Wembley win that would be.
Have you played them before at Wembley?
Don't believe so.
No. We played many teams. We played Chelsea twice, haven't we, at Wembley? And both times it did not go well. So, yeah. As long as we don't concede within 15 seconds or whatever it was. Roberto Di Matteo goal. Yeah. As long as that doesn't happen again, it's fine.
Well, that was it for the opposition preview show today. Raj, thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, good luck in the playoffs. Not too much luck, but hopefully it's two entertaining games. And Dana, thanks for joining us on this show as well. This has been the Boro Breakdown opposition preview show. Thanks for tuning in.